My name's Dino Gorman. I played Philly the Dwarf in The Hobbit. You're listening to the Legendarium podcast.
You could market that and sell to the fantasy community.
For sure.
Your spider spray, call it Sting. Totally.
Done.
Oh my god.
I would buy a special edition, pay $5 extra for one that glowed in
Totally.
the dark when a spider
Or
was
if it
near.
was actually like a Sting like dagger that you're spraying the stuff out of.
I miss Stephanie. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Legendarium podcast. This is episode 241. Today we are discussing The Hobbit, chapters 8 through 11. Today's episode is sponsored by Story Hack, action and adventure, modern anthology fiction with a classic feel. You can visit storyhack.com to learn more, and we'll have more about that later in the show. I'd like to remind you that the Legendarium is available on your favorite podcast player, but if you're looking for older episodes, you can find them grouped by subject at thelegendariumpodcast.com. If you enjoy what we do here, please consider supporting us on Patreon, and of course, tell your friends and leave a review. I'm your host, Craig Hanks, and with me today, well, he's constantly inviting me to dance in the woods with elves, but I've heard those code words before, and I was raised better than that. It's Kyle Lemon.
What's our safety word? I'm not really sure. I think it's elves.
Barrels.
Oh, gosh.
And we'll stuff him in a barrel and throw him in a river because that's the only way I'd ever ride him. It's Ryan Bruckman.
Yep. It's so disturbing.
My goal every week
Barrels.
Please don't fill my barrel.
My goal every week now is to insult you in such a way that you don't have an immediate comeback.
Okay.
I want to leave you speechless. So
For some strange reason, my inclination was to go, say my name, say my name. And I decided not to go with that because it didn't.
Well, you did now.
Well, yeah, now because it's
It's forever
Oh
recorded
gosh. Okay. Well, look.
for your posterity.
So much
on
for our
track, high-end Legendarium quality audio coming into your ears from our barrels.
Who was our sponsor this week?
Wow.
Because they got a winner.
wow.
Mark that one.
Yeah, we're gonna beat the. We're gonna beat that for sure. Wow. I'm half tempted to restart this episode.
Probably should.
I don't know. I don't know. Is this gold or dross? It's difficult to say.
Fool's gold.
It's Mithril.
So we're off to a rip-roaring start, ladies and gentlemen. Today is we're discussing The Hobbit, chapters 8 through 11. So if you're curious where we're at in the story, we have left Baron's house. We've entered Mirkwood. We've encountered the spiders. We've gone to visit the prison of the elves in Mirkwood. And then coming out the other side of Mirkwood, we rode down the river in some barrels, got to Lake Town where we met those cheerful folk. And then we've climbed the mountain now. We are at the Lonely Mountain. We've opened the door. We're about to enter Smaug's kingdom. And that's where we're at. Did I miss anything important? I think that should just about cover it. But those are the things we're going to talk about today. Let's start with a very classy discussion, highbrow, very, very academic discussion of Chapter 8. So, Ryan, do you want to give us a little bit more detail on what happens in this chapter, flies and spiders?
Nope.
Kyle, do you want to do it?
Basically, the company gets captured by spiders in the middle of the woods. Bilbo has to save them.
Do I have to do everything around here?
This is where Sting gets its name. The chapter where Sting gets its name.
Is.
Well, that's true. All right, so we enter Mirkwood, and they've had lots of warnings about what Mirkwood is.
We can tell which one of us is the purest out of the three.
Scary woods. Lots can happen here. They are warned by Gandalf to absolutely 100% stay on the path.
Let me ask you this. Sorry, I know you're in the middle
I'm
of
on a roll, man.
You're on the
Nothing.
path.
This
Nothing.
is 100% the worst episode we've ever done.
I believe
You're
it.
staying on the path. We are going off the path.
We're going to get in spider webs, and you're going to have to come save us.
I hate you guys.
I have a question for you, and quite frankly, I don't care if it's relevant here or not. Mirkwood, is it becoming dark because of Sauron's influence, or was it dark beforehand?
It's Sauron's influence. It used to be called Greenwood the Great. It is now Mirkwood.
Because that's for me. The spiders are coming. they're now there because of the influence of the dark coming. They weren't there
Right.
previously. They're not normal creatures to that place prior to this.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the giant spiders, it's not like they sprang into existence because they were created by Sauron. But yeah, they have multiplied and thrived because of the malevolent influence of the necromancer in the southern reaches of Mirkwood in Dol Guldur.
Because this forest is shared by the elves, right?
Yeah. They're in the northern region.
This is a big forest. Okay.
Big forest, yeah.
I was just curious because I just imagine the elves having this Mirkwood encroaching darkness onto their life. They're like, why that's not a bigger issue? Or maybe I just missed it when they talked about, the encroaching darkness on our land.
Well, I mean, it is a big issue. It's been going on for quite a while. We're in the Third Age 2941, and Smaug took over Erebor in 2770. So it's been 171 years since then. And in those intervening years, Sauron's spirit, his essence, has returned to Dol Guldur. I believe that's correct. I believe it was in those intervening years that he came back and started spreading his influence. So it's been going on for a little while.
Slow gentrification. Got it.
Gentrification. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's why the spiders, the talking spiders, all have these kind of like Brooklyn accents, right?
I envision them all with slightly hipster attitudes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah, I want to eat the dwarves, but I need to get through this avocado toast first as my appetizer. So, okay, right. What, Kyle?
Nothing.
Do you have more hipster jokes to make?
No, I don't. I was just in my own mind when you're talking about, the spiders have thrived because of this. I was just thinking the same thing happened in my basement when I stopped spraying home defense. So I feel your pain,
Yeah,
Middle Earth.
I've got your solution right here at Home Depot.
Yep. I don't have a sting though. Got to get me one of those.
So they are
Amazon.
Well,
They could
Ryan
really
got his
sell,
from me.
market that. You could market that and sell to the fantasy community.
For sure.
Your ortho, spider spray, call it Sting. Totally.
Done.
Oh my god!
I would buy a special edition, pay $5 extra for one that glowed in
Totally.
the dark when a
If,
spider
or
was
if it
in the
was
air.
actually like a sting, like dagger that you're spraying the stuff out of.
I miss Stephanie.
All right. Back to your recap.
Okay, so we've wandered in the woods. Stay on the path, Kyle.
On the path. We're on the path.
All right. So stay on the path. They don't stay on the path. They end up getting chased down by spiders.
But they don't stay on the
Captured.
path because there's an effect of the forest.
Okay, so tell me more about the effect of the forest. I'm trying desperately to get you to engage with this story, right?
Well, that's what it's these things coming here, but it's not just like, hey, that they wanted to walk off the path. Maybe there's a shortcut over
Yep.
here. It was a literal something that started to affect their minds as they walked, which led them off the path. Do we know what that is?
Well, it's magic. So it's the magic of Mirkwood. Now, this is a common, and this is why some people, like modern fantasy readers who are used to harder magic systems, read Tolkien and get a little bit annoyed by his magic, because it is an extremely soft magic system. He never bothers to explain how a wizard is able to do what he does, or why the malevolence of Dol Guldur is able to spread across Mirkwood. That's not explained, and it's not meant to be. And so I think there are two things at play here. There's the elves' magic and there's Sauron's magic. And so the elves have obviously a less malevolent version, but you can reach back into the Silmarillion and you have examples of the girdle of Melian, who it doesn't matter. I don't think you've been there in the Silmarillion, Ryan. We haven't read those chapters. Or Galadriel has
I
very
don't remember
similar.
anything about a girdle.
I know. Galadriel has a very similar thing going on in Lorien. And Lothlorien, she learned it from Melian, where it's this border that they magically construct, and it confuses people who wander into it so that they're able to ensnare them, right? So you got the elves magic, you've got the dark magic of Sauron, and it's becoming an altogether unpleasant place for creatures who are not native to it, right?
Okay.
So, but beyond that, that's the in-world explanation. But if we want to, look at the influences and whatnot, this is a common thing in Germanic and other northern traditions, right? The woods. Don't go in the woods. Little Red Riding Hood or whoever else. Don't go in the woods. That's where wolves are. And what do these things represent, right? Because back at that time, the world was a lot wilder than it is now. And the woods were indeed a scary place. And, kids weren't kept on such a tight leash as they are now with helicopter parents and whatnot. And, if a kid wandered into the woods, there was every chance that they would get lost. And, even if it wasn't getting eaten by a wild animal, they'd get lost and starve and die. Don't go in the woods, right? And so this is a common thing, and Tolkien's grabbing that and using it for his own purposes. And so if you do go in the woods, there is a road. And I'm talking real world, right? Like, back in medieval Germany and England and wherever else, if you got to go in the woods, there is an established path. Other people have gone before. This is a safe way through the woods. Don't leave the path. And this is just the fantasy version of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, does that answer your question?
I think so.
Do you remember your question?
No.
Okay, that's more appropriate for me to ask. Okay, so then we get captured by spiders. This is, for me, one of the more memorable moments in the book. It's like every chapter has something in it that when you look back on the book, whether it's falling down the pit into the orc's den, or you've got Gollum, or you've got Beorn in Beorn's house. Every chapter has something that you can look back and say, oh, okay, that was the interesting part of that chapter. But I feel like the spiders is kind of, if you had to pick 3 or 4 things to remember from the entire book, they would make that list. At least for me. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I think so. I know they definitely make the list for my 6-year-old. We just finished reading this.
Yeah.
She's not a fan of spiders, but I remember the spiders very vividly, and I remember especially the 1977 cartoon version of the Hobbit. I can still see those spiders in my mind every time I read through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that they talk and that Bilbo can understand what they're saying, and they're kissing at each other, talking about eating the dwarves and stuff like that. Super, super creepy. And 2, this is when Bilbo. It's not the first time that he gains some courage, but he uses his dagger and he names it Sting. And the point in any fantasy story when your blade gets a name is an important milestone.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So there's we talked in our Lord of the Rings episodes about how there's the imagery that's also borrowed from other older myths. When Bilbo gives Sting to Frodo, he first buries it in a bedpost, I want to say, something in the room. He stabs it into this bedpost, and so Frodo must remove the sword from this object, right? So it's very sword in the stone kind of imagery, and so that's how he's passing it on. But yeah, same thing. Like if your sword has a name, then it's important, right? We talked about, what was that? It was like an Irish beer or something last time. Was it Legbiter beer? That's named after a king's sword from ancient Norway or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, spiders, terrifying. And in fact, I've got a quote from Tolkien here. He was being interviewed for a radio show, and he says, "I put in the spiders largely because this was, you remember, primarily written for my children. At least I had them in mind. And one of my sons in particular dislikes spiders with a great intensity. I did it to thoroughly frighten him, and it did."
Thanks, Dad.
So yeah, exactly. Father of the year, ladies and gentlemen. No, I think that's great.
Go into the woods and wander off, though.
Exactly. So, okay. So spiders, I don't like spiders. I really don't like spiders. And the idea of giant spiders is scary enough. But then once those giant spiders start talking, forget it. I'm done.
The idea of, in real life, I think the closest thing we have to these is like the huntsman spiders of Australia. And legitimately, like, as much as I would love to visit Australia, that is something that I'm terrified of. And it's like prevented me from buying a ticket, because
You would think twice.
I would absolutely think twice and be like, okay, where I'm at, what's the likelihood of me seeing something that is the size of my head? Like that? Like, that's...
So, quick tangent story.
Okay.
When I was in Guatemala, we were hitchhiking. We got in the back of a banana truck.
Nope.
Mhm.
Nope. I'm done with this story. I'm good.
I'm going to keep going for the listeners. Jump in the back of the banana truck, hitchhike, I don't know, 20 miles down the road. Have my backpack on my lap.
Oh.
Sitting there talking. When we stop at whatever our destination was. I hop out, pull the backpack off my lap, 3 banana spiders on my leg. Banana spiders about the size of your hand. Very venomous. Not good. So naturally scream like a little girl, wipe them off my leg with my backpack, and then do the whole Ace Ventura, like, they're in my hair thing for like pretty much
the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Oh
That was
gosh.
an experience.
Mirkwood bananas. I do not
Can
like
I
this
say
story.
something? Up to this point, if you stopped reading right here, this group would seem like a really bad set of travelers. They're not good at their jobs.
No. It's in fact, I think it's Bilbo at this point, or no, it might be when they get to the elves. They're locked up in the elves' prison, but at some point Bilbo says, "Well, geez, ever since Gandalf left, here I am doing all the hard work." Or no, it's actually he says that when they get to Erebor, and they're climbing up to the door, or they get to the front door, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Bilbo, you got that magic ring, right? You're up, slugger."
Mm-hmm.
Like, this sounds like a perfect job for you. He's like, well, come on. I can't do everything for you. But yeah, he kind of does at this point.
Yeah, this great group of warrior dwarves who are going to reclaim their homeland have somehow managed to be trapped by trolls, fall into a pit, spiders.
Trolls, orcs, spiders, soon elves.
And there's no like fight sequence where they're captured either. It's just they are captured straight out of the bat.
Bumble into it.
So I do want to mention a few more things about the spiders. Where's my note about them? Oh, yeah. Okay, so everybody hates Tolkien's songs and poems, right? Everybody hates them. I don't hate them. You don't hate them?
I'm actually going to bring that up.
Okay, good. What do you want to say about them? Then I'll probably have something to add.
I like them. That I think that it lends to the idea that this was written for children, and they're kind of his version of like nursery rhymes and catchy, fun breakups to the story. And actually, like I said, when I was reading this aloud to my daughter, those were some of her favorite parts because we get through 2 or 3 pages of story of prose, and then we could kind of have this sing-songy little breakup for her, and she would really latch on to those. So she still will walk by when she'll like at dinner time, and she'll talk about how those dwarves just spent all of Bilbo's forks. It just really upset her that they would bend forks and pass on plates.
That's funny.
So I like them.
That's adorable. Yeah, that's great. So here's one of the I like the little rhymes too. So Bilbo is trying to lead the spiders away. The spiders have captured all the dwarves. They're hanging up in the tree, and Bilbo is trying to lead them away with the ring on. So he's invisible, and he's singing at them. Old fat spider spinning in a tree. Old fat spider can't see me. Attercop, won't you stop? Stop your spinning and look for me. Attercop. That's a weird thing to call a spider.
Are you going to tell us where it came from?
Professor Hanks has entered the building. Yeah, I actually am. So it's a Middle English word from the Old English attercopa, which means spider. So, but I love that. He knew a lot of words for a lot of different things, right? And so for spider, you don't need, but if you have it in your arsenal, you have at your ready several different words for the same thing. And so what is it? It's a spider. And so if I'm writing a book, they're spiders. That's what they're called. They're spiders. But for him, they're attercops because it's a great word. It's going to rhyme with a bunch of stuff, and it has a good rhythm to it, right? So you can throw it in there, call him attercop. And he says something like, well, as you know, spiders hate being called that, and he's able to inject a lot of great humor in it. There's also the next one, Bilbo continues trying to lead them away. He calls them lazy lob and crazy cob are weaving webs to wind me. Lob and cob, both words for spider, believe it or not. So lob is from the Old English lopa, and cob is a rare form of the word spider, but probably comes from
Cobweb.
There you go.
So, correct me if I'm wrong though. These Mirkwood spiders are related to Shelob.
Right. Who is related to Ryan? No, you don't remember that part. I don't know if we ever read that part in the Silmarillion. Ungoliant.
Oh yeah, we did because Girith Ungol means
means
Spider.
spider. Yeah, the pass of the spider.
Yeah.
So Ungoliant is the mother of Shelob, and is actually of the same eternal race as Sauron and Gandalf and Saruman and the Balrogs and whatnot. One of them took the form of a giant spider and had offspring, and that's what we're dealing with here. So
And that's where Kyle and I are going to start writing our
Mm-hmm.
Lord of the Rings fan fiction about Spider
Elf.
Jeez, wait, is this a thing?
Well, in the chat,
yes.
chat that we were talking about,
I remember, but other people don't know.
I'm about
your
to
inside
explain
jokes.
it, so shut the hell up. So in the chat, in the Legendarium chat, discussing when we were going to record this episode, Craig said that we were going to be talking about spiders, elves, and whatever else we're going to be talking about. And I read it as we're going to be talking about spider elves. And I was like, what is a spider elf? And then Ryan came up with basically like a movie pitch or a story pitch for spider elf.
Yeah. We can tell this story. Craig, do you want us to pitch the movie?
I want you to pitch what is Spider Elf.
It's the story of Peter Parkoglifin. I can't even write it anymore.
Peter's got an apostrophe in there somewhere, though.
But we held true to the Spider-Man.
Peter Pattercop.
Yeah. Basically, he gets bitten by a spider who's been washed in the rivers of the Aranon that has been touched by the hand of Iluvatar and with the daughter, it's this whole thing. They still kill Uncle Ben. Don't worry, we still kill Uncle Ben. And then he has to go through
Uncle Baron.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Ish. Okay, we should probably leave the spiders behind. Is there anything else we want to say?
We
about
should have
this?
left them behind a while ago. We're good. Let's go.
That's true. Okay. All right. We got to go to the elves. Okay. So the elves. This scene. We're now starving, trying to run through the woods. We've lost our way, and the elves are they're partying. They're having keggers out in the woods. At least they're trying to. They're dancing. They've got these fires going. They're all just kind of partying. I'm picturing an elven kegger, and you can't stop me. So they're in the woods, and then these drunken dwarves, or not drunken, these starving dwarves are stumbling toward them, and every time they get close, the elves disappear, and they run away, and they set up camp somewhere else, and the dwarves have to go find them again. And finally, they get captured and thrown in prison by the Elven King. And that's the only name that we're given in this. We don't know until Lord of the Rings that his name is Thranduil and that he's Legolas' father and all that stuff. That doesn't come into play until later. So right now he's just known as the Elven King. And they get chucked in prison. And Bilbo once again has to save their bacon. What are your thoughts on this before I dig into some of mine?
Just the elves just seem like real assholes. Sorry, you'll have to edit that out.
There's a lot of editing in this episode.
I forget which, we're on an official episode here. I'm sorry. No, they always just came across as like, one, to Ryan's point earlier about Mirkwood, like, what were you doing, elves, while all of this dark influence was happening at your doorstep? Like, thanks for that. But also, they just don't help the dwarves out in any way. And it just seems like a real bad move.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit because, they seem really pissy.
Mm-hmm.
Get away from us! How dare
They're
you
uppity.
encroach upon our land?
I mean, they're elves, but
all right. And I mean, the elves distrust the dwarves, and I get that, but I can kind of sympathize with the elves here a little bit. Okay, so they live in the same forest, like you said, as the newly ascendant necromancer, and so they've got this to deal with. They're surrounded by giant talking spiders, and all they know is that every time they try to get out in the woods and have one of these keggers, this ragged group of dwarves stumbles toward them, probably with spider webs in their beards and shouting like they're high on something. Yeah, you gotta help us out. And so, Fred, that would freak me out. I'd run away too. I think you would too. So you know what? I'm sympathizing with the elves here.
all right.
Anyway, okay, so they eventually capture the elves, throw them in prison, capture the dwarves, throw them in prison, and Bilbo busts them out with the barrels. We're not going to spend a lot of time there with the elves, and that's fine. It's more just an obstacle for them to get past. I'm trying to think if there's anything I do want to say. I will say this. In the discussion of the elves, even in 1937, the first edition, before all the changes were made, there was already a lot of discussion, or a little bit of mention, I should say, of high elves and light elves and sea elves and all this stuff. He mentions all these, and that's from his mythology, from the Silmarillion, which obviously was nowhere near publication yet, but he had it in mind. And I'm sometimes tempted to think that he didn't inject that stuff until the second edition when he wanted to bring it more in line with the Lord of the Rings, but he did. He had a lot of that stuff in there already, those mentions. So he knew exactly what the elves were, and they looked nothing like that cartoon version from the 70s. So
Yeah, those are creepy elves.
those are weird freaking elves.
Mhm.
Anyway, there's also the question of whether elves have pointy ears or not. Do you guys have any opinion on this?
I'm gonna go with yeah.
I've seen the movies.
Do I have an opinion? Not a strong one,
Yeah.
but yes, sure. Yeah, they have pointy ears.
Yeah, there's no mention in The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings about whether the elves have pointy ears. He never comes down on that. He describes them in not great detail, but some detail, but he never gets to the ears. And so some people, they wonder about that. There is one mention in History of Middle-earth, Volume 5, and there's mention of, you know what, it doesn't matter. It's they probably have pointy ears. I don't care. Who cares?
Yeah.
Go read book 5 of History of Middle-earth. You can find out all about it.
The whole thing, my whole understanding of this portion as to why the dwarves are being imprisoned and why they're here is when they basically announce they're going to Erebor, the king demands that like he has a portion that he feels that he deserves from the riches.
Right.
So this is basically a, hey, we're going to bring in this army into the Battle of the Five Armies later because they are someone who believes they deserve a portion of what the treasure inside of Erebor. And I was like, okay, we got that.
Yep.
We're good to move on.
Yeah, we're good to move on. So now,
Maybe you guys have all already covered this in previous episodes that I wasn't on. But I'd like to ask the question: why do you think the structure is the way that it is?
what
Where
do you mean?
you have basically a chapter or a scene where, like we talked about this before, the dwarves get captured, we have to rescue them. The next thing, the dwarves get captured, we have to rescue them. The dwarves get captured again. Like, why is there such a cyclical structure there? I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 really fun scenes that are basically the same thing when you break it down, right? Now, maybe for this one you pinpoint it as, we got to bring the elves into the Battle of the Five Armies. That's the whole point of this portion. But why do you think Tolkien did that? Do you think it's because he wrote this for his children and he's trying to teach them a lesson? Or, I don't know, just curious.
I mean, I have my opinion. Ryan, do you have yours?
I do think that it's just a goal to keep things simple. I wouldn't classify this in a lot of fantasy. You have a try-fail cycle. It's pretty common in writing like this.
Right.
This isn't a try-fail cycle because they're not trying something. They just keep getting captured.
Right.
And like, I don't want it to sound like I'm bored by this because that's not what I'm saying. Each of these little adventure things is fine. It's just repetitive, and you start to notice it as an older reader, especially.
Right.
As a child, maybe not so much. My child can watch the same 6 episodes of Pocoyo like every day and be fine. That's kind of like the structure of this. Okay, we got to go back into peril.
Just the simplicity of it, basically.
Just keeping it simple and saying, all right, we're in trouble again. Now we need to get out. How are we going to get out this time? Because each time, the way they get out each time has been a little different. The sun coming up and Bilbo is using his ability to talk and confuse.
No, that's Gandalf.
Well, Gandalf's from the woods. Bilbo doesn't.
No. Gandalf's the one throwing his voice.
Yes.
So no, this kind of actually leads into what my point would be. Is like, yeah, it is kind of similar. This cyclical idea of them getting into trouble and then getting out of trouble. But as we go through the story, there's a progression of how they get out of trouble. And we've got Gandalf gets him out of trouble. Gandalf gets him out of trouble. Gandalf gets him out of trouble. And suddenly at some point it shifts and Bilbo has to figure something out. And with each, it's leveling him up, right?
Right.
With each progressive adventure in each chapter, Bilbo is learning more about himself, gaining confidence so that the next time this happens, the next time he's called on to do something difficult, he feels a little more prepared, a little more able. And so when the spiders capture the dwarves, Bilbo's like, oh, geez, what am I going to do? And he stumbles across his plan, but he is not super stoked about this. When they get to the Elven Kingdom, he's got the ring ready to go. He's like, I've been through this. I know how this goes. I can handle this, right? He has a little bit more confidence than he did previously. And so that's where I see it. Yes, it's repetitive, and I think that has something to do with the idea that this is for children. So I like what you guys are saying about the simplicity, and that's easy to comprehend. And even if a child doesn't understand this, their brain does, right? They're processing this idea of succeeding at something, gaining confidence, and being ready for the next thing that comes up in a similar vein.
Up until the point where Bilbo is finally he leads out on the adventure, where like he's the one who has to go in on his own to see Smaug.
Right, and we're going to get to that in a little while. We'll get to that in the next episode. I think we got 2 more Hobbit episodes after this, if we go with this pattern that we've been on. But yeah, the next time he's going to be a little more confident and understand that his role is now as leader of the party. And then especially when the Battle of the Five Armies occurs, he's going to really not just accept a leadership position, but actually get out, take the initiative, and do something that nobody called on him to do, but that he just understood needed to be done. So yeah, we'll get to all that. But anyway, how's that for an answer?
Perfect. No, just wanted to pose the question.
Yeah. Okay, so we have ridden down the river, the Anduin, and is it the Anduin? No, it's not. It's the other one. I can't remember the name of it. Doesn't matter.
You don't want to have any discussion about the barrel riding sequence, that hack move.
Speaking of hacks, that was a beautiful transition. Thank you. I do need to remember that this episode is brought to us by a sponsor, and that sponsor is Story Hacks. You know who's not a story hack? Anybody who publishes in Story Hacks. All right. The world today is a busy place filled with idiots saying dumb things on social media, shiny new streaming services every couple of weeks, not to mention the financial, family, and job stresses of life. It's enough to wear a person down. Fortunately, there's a magazine that can help you tune out the noise and enjoy a few minutes of escape into worlds of pure excitement and imagination. Story, Hack, Action, and Adventure is an anthology series designed to recharge those batteries and get you ready and refreshed to jump back into the fray of real life. Each issue of Story, Hack, Action, and Adventure allows you to explore new genres through pulse-pounding stories from up-and-coming authors, from military sci-fi tales, sword and sorcery yarns, to modern crime thrillers, and even daring jungle adventures. The one thing the stories share is a non-stop sheer excitement. And right now, you can get your first digital issue absolutely free. Just visit storyhack.com for more information. That's storyhack.com. Story, Hack, Action, and Adventure, modern fiction with a classic feel. And thank you very much, Story Hack, for sponsoring the Legendarium podcast. All right, so shall we move on with our Hobbit stuff? Do you want to talk about the movie here, Ryan?
I mean, if we really want to get into just the masterful CGI one-shot that was the barrel ride, like,
do a barrel roll.
About 40 of them. No, that's
man.
fine. Let's not dwell on those things.
My favorite is it's this tiny transition sequence in the book, and it is a 45-minute, maybe not 45 minutes, but it just is awful.
It's I remember somebody timed it at one point, right? I think it's a 12 or 15-minute scene where they're crashing through the river. And look, I know we're not supposed to talk about the movies much, but I will just say, in a trilogy of movies full of egregiousness, that is maybe the most egregious thing that they did was the barrel riding sequence. It's upsetting to even think about. So that's why I didn't want to talk about it. I don't know. I bet somebody out there listening really disagrees and thinks that the barrel riding scene was a genius addition to a nearly flawless film series. But whatever.
Whoever's out there working on the barrel ride for Hobbit Land, they're like, womp womp.
Yeah.
Craig doesn't like this.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop building it.
Oh, my bomber cosplay is now useless. Had a bomber in a barrel.
So we get to Lake Town. There's all these adventures. They're getting there's all these kind of pit stops along the way, but eventually they get to Lake Town, and finally this is a chapter called A Warm Welcome, because after the last homely house, even in a place like Beorn's house, there's still that kind of edge. They weren't sure what he was going to do.
You
or
can be
say.
here, but you're not welcome.
You're not welcome, but but I'm not going to eat you in your sleep, probably. But now they're getting a warm welcome because they're in Lake Town. And Lake Town, as I mentioned, it's been 171 years since Smaug sacked Dale and Erebor, those kingdoms. And so it's been a little while, but it's still within not living memory for the people of Dale, but within kind of living legend.
I was like, that seems like a really big time span for Bard to be related.
Well, he's a descendant.
Just a descendant?
Yeah, it's not like his son or anything. So there was not Garion, that's the name of what's the name? Like Gallion.
David Eddings.
Yeah, that's David Eddings. I can't remember the name of his ancestor, but yeah, the guy who was the hero of Dale, but he was killed by Smaug in that initial attack, and now Bard the bowman is the descendant of that bowman. So he's what was I going to say? Oh yeah, it's been 171 years, and I was thinking about this. It's 2019. So we are broadcasting, as you may know, from the great state of Utah. We have our own set of legends and stories and whatnot that we tell from about that time frame ago, because that's when the Mormon pioneers went from wherever it was, Illinois, I guess, across the plains and came. And we still celebrate. We have parades every July to celebrate, the pioneers coming in and all that. So it's kind of a familiar thing where you have these legends and stories. And for the people of Lake Town, we used to live in this dope city on the shoulder of the mountain, where there's just untold wealth coming out from the dwarves doing their thing in Erebor, and life was pretty darn good. And we got chased down to this lake by this dragon. Life sucks now, but the good old days, right? And so you can imagine them telling these stories over and over again. And so when Bilbo and the dwarves finally show up and they say, Thorin announces himself very grandly, "I am Thorin, I'm here to take back the mountain." And everybody's like, "Hell yeah, go get that gold. We could use some of that. We're poor and sad."
Why did you decide to build on a lake? You're chased out by the dragon, like rebuilding on the lake.
I don't know. It's fun.
Curious as to the rebuild structure on that.
I appreciate the Lake Town people's optimism, given the fact that this party, obviously they don't know this, but this party's been captured multiple times and is basically useless. And he's like, "I'm here to slay the dragon." And they're like, "Yeah, you're going to do that." And it's like, no, you can't even get out of bed without falling in a goblin pit.
There's a little bit of mention of that because when they show up at the Master's Hall, I can't remember what it's called, but they show up, they announce themselves, "We're here to take back our ancestral homeland." And there are some elven rivermen, boatmen, whatever they call them, the envoys from the elves who are there to kind of oversee shipments and whatnot. They're there and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute. These guys escaped. They're our prisoners." And Thorin has this speech about, "Screw you. We made it out. We're not even in your country anymore. So you shut your mouth. I'm talking to the master of Lake Town now." It's a great little speech. I like it a lot. And so there's already acknowledgement that they, were captured by the elves. Womp womp. And then when they finally leave Lake Town and they're starting their climb up Erebor, their guides from Lake Town, who have kind of been shuttling them up the river, they finally, at a certain point, they're like, "We're out. We're done. Yeah, we're too close. This is where people go to die, and Smaug is going to eat us. And so we're out of here." And we go back. And there's a great line in the book. I don't have it pulled up just now, but I'm gonna, where he says, "None of the men of the town would stay with them, even for the night, so near the shadow of the mountain. Not at any rate until the songs have come true," said they. "It was easier to believe in the dragon and less easy to believe in Thorin in these wild parts." Anyway, so I think that concept is kind of touched on, even if it's not really explored. So, yeah, they kind of, it's a good excuse to throw a party and have a feast and say, "Hey, best of luck to you. It's been great to see you. Have a good time getting burnt to a crisp and eaten."
I totally see how Dr. Seuss ripped this off for The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
What?
The Who's down in Whoville were terrified to go up on the mountain where the Grinch lived.
Oh.
And they wouldn't go that far. They wouldn't go up there.
Oh, okay.
And so they had their Christmas feast and everything. Just come on, man.
Sorry, I'm not. I'm not a Dr. Seuss guy. I don't
Clearly.
I don't care for Dr.
Clearly,
Seuss.
are the places you won't go, sir. You will not go.
Obviously. Okay, so we're going up the mountain, and there's the whole thing with the thrush. They're looking for a thrush.
That
With
thrush
this-
has to be important, though.
Well, it is important. It's part of like a prophecy, right? They're looking for at the sign of the thrush.
I was just curious if that was like hand of divinity or something putting there, because knowing where a bird's gonna be, or like, because the bird was that bird only there on that year, or does that bird come back every year and knock and be like, no one's here? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is again part of that. The idea of a soft magic system. In this case, we have a very soft prophecy system, right? And so
Okay.
there's this at the sign of the thrush, and so when Bilbo sees the thrush, he remembers that. But it's like, that's not something that we've been dwelling on throughout the whole book. Oh, that sign of the thrush. I'm looking out for the thrush. I'm looking. There it is. It's just kind of, it happens, and then there's a little callback to it.
but there's still also the moment, and it's later on, so we won't spend too much time. But when the thrush is the one who goes to Bard and explains about the dragon scale,
Right.
and Bard is part of the ancestry that can listen to the thrushes and hear them speak. Like,
Lucky him.
it's like, this bird is important. I would, in all of the additional mythos out there, I don't know if that's the right use or not, but did he ever write the story of the thrush in the Silmaril or something? Or is there anything?
No. That's not a thing. Yeah, it's just in the Hobbit.
Fanfic, here we go.
You guys are going to be writing a lot of fan fiction here coming up. Can you do something about thrushes versus spiders?
That's how you make a bunch of money, according to Twilight.
Hey, Spider-Man had a villain called the Vulture. We can make the thrush, the spider elves, one of his nemesis.
It's true.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go on from that and ignore it. With this chapter, the climb up to the door, this is the one chapter that I would single out from the entire book and say, I'm not sure that there's a lot of, memorable moments in this until we get to the opening of the door. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there anything that really jumps out to you?
Considering I can't remember anything other than the fact that they climb, no.
Well, they do pass the city of Dale, and so we get a little bit of history there. We understand now what happened back then. So Bilbo gets to hear the story of what happened to the town of Dale. He's haunted by that imagery as he climbs. He's afraid that he might have to look at the city once again on their way back down and that sort of thing. And so there are little things, but as far as something as memorable as giant spiders or Gollum or trolls, this chapter doesn't really have that.
No.
But what it does have, and this is my, just kind of my opinion, what I really love about this is there's some really great prose in this chapter in the last couple of paragraphs. And so people talk about Tolkien sometimes with a little bit of derision in their voice when it comes to his writing. They say, oh, he's a great storyteller. Yeah, he came up with these languages and whatnot, but he wasn't a very good writer. Screw that noise. I think he was a great writer. And so here's some example of that. So this is the last two paragraphs of chapter 11, and they've come up to the door, and the light, this beam of light, is shining on the door, and the keyhole opens up. This is not the good prose. Don't worry. The keyhole opens up, and Bilbo's shouting at Thorin to hurry up while there's still time. Then Thorin stepped up and drew the key on his chain from around his neck. He put it to the hole. It fitted, and it turned. Snap. The gleam went out. The sun sank. The moon was gone, and evening sprang into the sky. Now they all pushed together, and slowly a part of the rock wall gave way. Long, straight cracks appeared and widened. A door 5 feet high and 3 broad was outlined and slowly, without a sound, swung inwards. It seemed as if darkness flowed out like a vapor from the hole in the mountainside, and deep darkness in which nothing could be seen lay before their eyes, a yawning mouth leading in and down. And those are the last words of the chapter. I just think that is so good. Such good writing in both those paragraphs and in a lot of this story, to be perfectly honest. But when I read that, it just, when I get to those paragraphs, it makes me stop cold and go, you know what? That dude knew how to construct a paragraph for sure. So now we've reached the end of chapter 11. Are there any other things that you guys want to bring up? Any other questions that you have? Any other points you want to bring up? Final thoughts on these chapters before we call it a night?
Ready to move on to Smaug.
Yeah, Smaug is going to be a good portion of this. So we will get to that. I think like I said, we're going to do 2 more episodes of The Hobbit, or as Kyle's daughter likes to call it,
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit, which is adorable. So I believe we're going to do, again, 4 chapters for the next episode, 12 through 15. That will take us into Smaug's lair, etc. And then the last episode that we'll do on The Hobbit will finish the book out with those last 4 chapters. So I hope that you'll join us for that. And once again, I miss Stephanie. I guess you're okay, Kyle, but whatever. We'll see if we can get Stephanie back as well for the next one, because I know that there are some listeners who were disappointed in that. She's been a good addition to these episodes. So make sure you visit us at patreon.com/legendarium if you enjoy the show. Visit us at thelegendarium.reddit.com to join the conversation there. And we will see you guys next time. Okay.
You're going to have some fun editing choices to make on that show.
Oh, that is going to take forever.
Sorry.
No, it's not you.
But we had a good time. Isn't that what it's about?